This video is months behind from the hot times, but as is usual of my routine, I could care less about that. I just cover the topics at my own pace whenever possible and only if I care to even discuss it at all. This is such a topic that I care to discuss as it poses a critical threat to creativity in game development, the very thing developers should be far more concerned about than their irrational fears and zealous hate over GI. Last year in the summer of 2025, payment processors have subjugated the companies of online video game stores like Steam and itch. On the Valve side, customers around the world have lost their ability to purchase games on Steam in almost all currencies sans 6. On the itch side, numerous games were suddenly de-indexed from public search and visibility in order for the company to save face, effectively crippling the marketing potential of these games and even disrupting their revenue streams. And this atrocious ordeal was ultimately orchestrated by Collective Shout. Collective Shout is an Australian female supremacist group. Tempting as it may be, they are not actually feminists nor even feminazis, for they are not liberals, they are conservatives, founded in 2009 by Melinda Tankard-Rist. It describes itself as a grassroots movement against the objectification of women and sexualization of girls in media, advertising, and popular culture. For the past decade, they have protested usually Australian media, films, books, and music of which they claim sexualize women, as well as sales of underage sex dolls. In 2025 they have raised a massive stink against sexual content in video games and personally snitched to the payment processors to pressure and subjugate online storefronts whom are friendly with NSFW, not safe for work, games. This is what led to where we are today. Even after achieving their dirty, ill-gotten victory, they did not want to stop there. They continued to cry wolf to the rest of the planet, manipulating the untied nations, another disgraceful force I could rant about all day in another time, and the International Criminal Police Organization, Interpol, into echoing and rallying their mythological and fallacious claims about the danger of video games, and calling for them to arrest us for simply developing or possessing a dirty, obscene, or perverted video game. So to summarize, our entire gaming world is now in serious danger of losing the most important element that justifies its very spirit and existence, our freedom of creativity. All because of a cult of hateful, anti-gamer, traditionalist, female supremacist thoughts who pretend to care for children, literally hates adult-focused video games creatively expressing themselves, however disgusting and horrendous it may be, and wants to eradicate them from existence. This is the very thing I have dreadfully feared in the 2010s when I was still working in the gaming industry. This is the very thing I shed tears and shouted bouts of rage against when we were bordering towards such dystopian future since the time of the first Gamergate, by the anti-gamers from within our own neighboring gaming industry. This is what convinced me to join the first Gamergate movement during the Second War on Gaming. The very thing idiots back then downplayed as an overreaction, and even discredited me as some whiny piece baby, angry obnoxious douchebag. Over it. Well, here we are. The dark age of gaming. It is already happening. It's been happening since the summer of 2021. Now Collective Shout's defamation is likely going to help in gradually finishing the job worldwide. Even if Donald Trump passes his legislation to restrict finance companies from abusing merchants over personal distaste in entertainment media, it won't do much to mitigate the censorious tidal nightmare that will probably happen in the future, probably this year for all we know. It will only truly apply to American financial companies after all. Foreign finance businesses may not need to answer to US-American laws. They do not live in the nation and thus are not obligated to strictly follow their laws, at least while operating on their own native homeland soil. I doubt other nations will follow similar suit. The United Kingdom is already effectively becoming a dictatorship, and Australia itself has been functioning more like a weirdly authoritarian nation since the 2010s. Void knows how the other nations will handle this, Some of them are already anti-gamer nations like Venezuela and China. If you want to know more about this upcoming dystopian future, just watch Water CS2's video on the matter. It is in the sources section of my video description. I want to talk to you about an indie game studio business I know of. For security reasons, I will not disclose the true identity of it or the employees, for I don't want those misandric sub-females scum from Collective Shout to mark it on their crosshairs, so I would just codename it as NSFW Games Interactive, NGI. The founder shall be dubbed the Noob and the co-founder the Lead. Early in this decade, the Noob wanted to try his luck in the gaming industry and wanted to work on an indie game that can help him financially survive independently. The Noob brought the Lead along for that very purpose since, unlike him, he is no game developer. The Noob has zero experience with creating games and is completely new to it. The Lead agreed to help the Noob under two conditions. The first is that he will help him financially thrive on this business endeavor as well up to a certain point. The Lead wanted to make games that can help both of them financially become set for life. The Noob agreed, but he also had a condition: the games must either be NSFW related, or at least border near it, like anime usually does. The Lead personally does not like pornography or most fetish games, but there is one fetish he could at least tolerate. Problem is, he also strongly despises and distrusts the associated community of that certain fetish due to his own personal experience with them. Which is what led to the Lead's second condition: he would remain anonymous or the very least indirectly associated with the project. The Noob will have to handle PR on his own or hire others to do it for him, while the Lead strictly would just work on the game behind the scenes, no interacting with scummy people, or at least not being forced to. Like an anonymous game developer working in the basement, while someone else acts as his vocal avatar. The Noob ultimately agreed and they started work on their first game. While originally planned, it ultimately would not become a fetish game, but instead just a risky yet wacky game that borders into that territory, somewhat like that itchy crap in teen-rated anime slop. Years elapses and the game was ultimately released. NGI had garnered pre-orders and a decent amount of income during the entire process, that the game's post-release sales did not even matter as much. The duo business still made more decent money post-release on each, and only a quarter as much on Steam. NGI did not bother promoting the Steam release nearly as much as they did the itch release. Convinced that their studio business has a chance in selling games, they were now ready to try their hand at creating an actual NSFW game. But then came that news from itch concerning the uncertain fate of the site and NSFW games, and their method to try and mitigate the damage. When NGI discovered that all NSFW games would be de-indexed during itch's audit, it drew tremendous concern for their studio. Fortunately, their only game is not NSFW, so they were safe. But what about their upcoming second game? Their new game wasn't planning to feature sexual intercourse, but it was planning to feature a great deal of self-masturbation and mutually assisted masturbation. Now, thanks to Collective Shout, the devs at NGI are no longer sure if they can even dare make such game anymore. Who knows what will happen to it later on if Collective Shout's continued manipulations gain more traction, or if Trump's law to combat subjugation from finance companies falls through. Well then, NGI is pretty much screwed. Not much they can do but maybe tread on eggshells making more borderline sexual games, or just close shop and find a new business venture. The Noob was especially devastated by this ordeal as he strongly considered closing shop after they finished making their second game. He was not the only one. All of them, the Noob, and a third mutual friend of theirs who helps them monitor scummy activity or ask for help on their behalf in Discord communities, found out that many other adult game devs are also in a frustrated and devastated state about this problem. the mass removal of games from Steam and itch were not only just bad titles. First were the underage trash. I never seen any of them on Steam, but I did encounter a few on itch, and some of them were deleted even before the great audit happened. Good riddance. Next was the rape and incestuous trash. As much as I hate them vehemently, even I agree it is still the creator's right to express that as long as the parties involved are adults and are not living people in real life. I cannot discuss too much about that here on YouTube, so if you want an uncensored version of that particular discussion, click on my Rumble video link in the description and watch that instead. However, even non-sexually penetrative fetish content were also removed from both stores, as well as some alphabetical fetish content was sniped from the digital stores, such as the comic book series Rita and Josie by Yuki Clark, although that comic has later been restored. NGI also told me that they have noticed some of the games they've collected for research upon making their second game, their first true NSFW game, were suddenly disappearing in droves from their private research collection on itch. I had a chance to see this list before that later happened, and I know not all of them were NSFW nor even too offensive to risk any further existence. As much as I understand itch's decisions to quite figuratively save face amidst the brink of overwhelming censorship in this third war on gaming, I have since been having concerns with completely trusting the platform anymore. That government pressure can force even the most libertarian game repository establishments on the internet into becoming authoritarian ones just to protect themselves. All I can say further on this matter is, if something happens to NGI's itch page amidst this censorship, the noob might try to sell the second game on Steam instead, if still possible, then officially close down his business. Delete and their business person would also go their separate ways. That is all they have told me thus far. Void knows whether this censorship tide will also, once again, escalate into censoring games based around violence or some other controversial matters. As for me, if something happens to Neanderthal Empire's itch page amidst this censorship, I will officially close down my business and just focus on my personal hobby projects via my personal itch account. If that gets sniped out of existence, then I guess I would just call game dev a wrap, quit it entirely, and just play through my backlog of legacy games, some legally bought on GOG, and others pirated otherwise, for the rest of my life. Fuck collective shout, fuck the feds, post your feedback and concerns in the comments, see ya.